You are listening to NSR, National Scrubs Radio, where nurses, doctors, students, and other healthcare professionals bring you stories from scrubs across the nation. Tune in today with NSR's Derek J.
Hey, welcome to NSR, that's National Scrubs Radio. My name is Derek J, your host for today. And what I've learned from working in the healthcare arena, whether you're a doctor, nurse, speech pathologist, it doesn't even matter, that everyone has a story, and I want to hear yours. So my guest today, his name is Adrian, and you might recognize this guy because he was on that MTV reality show called Scubbing In. It was about travel nurses, but before he got on TV, this guy was an EMT. And then from there, he went to nursing school in NYU. He goes over his story about that and also a personal tragedy involving his older brother. You want to make sure that you stay tuned in for the part where Adrian goes over what he was asked to do for $1,000. Here's Adrian. Well, this is Derek J, your host for NSR. I have an awesome guest, Adrian. I'm super excited because I've been waiting for this guy to come on my podcast. I've been kind of actually asking him almost every day, hey, Adrian, Adrian, when are you going to come on, buddy? Welcome to the show, Adrian. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. I'm on my third IPA and reached my thresholds where I become a chatty Cathy.
Yeah.
So, sometimes this is prime recording time.
Well, 3 IPAs will definitely, result into... cheers, by the way. Let's just cheers it up, man.
Cheers to that.
There you go. Welcome to NSR, dude.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
Finally, we made this happen.
Yeah, I've been waiting for a while for you to show up in North Beach. You ever come out here?
Unfortunately, I don't. I probably should. But, I live on the complete opposite side of town, and it's just...
Yeah, but you have to at least try Tony's. I know. And you told me before this podcast, dude, I'd never really been to Tony's or never really tried Golden Boys. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, some of the best slices in town.
So if you're listening from the outside, by the way, Golden Boys and Tony's Pizza in North Beach in San Francisco is some of the best pizza that you can find on this planet. I mean,
well, come on, man. I lived in New York City for a while, dude.
Screw New York, man. I'm talking about San Francisco.
I'm talking about good New York Italian pizza, man. You can't beat it in California.
Oh,
I don't even eat it. I don't even eat pizza in California. I eat Mexican food.
So are you one of those people that says that if you put pineapple on a pizza, it's not pizza?
I love pineapple on my pizza.
Yeah, okay.
But, I don't eat real pizza unless I'm in New York.
Half the audience is blowing their lid right now.
It's not real pizza. I just eat it because it tastes good.
Yeah. So Adrian's a nurse. I just want to bring that up. Adrian's a nurse. He's been on TV. I've actually worked with the dude. He's awesome. Explain to me, man, how did you get into nursing?
I finished this liberal arts education, which was, when I look back on it, it's a complete waste of money, but I had some of the best times of my life there.
Liberal arts college?
Yeah, I went to Whittier in LA. And got a degree in kinesiology. Really didn't do anything with it.
Yeah.
And from there, I went to EMT school, and I was like, I'll be a fireman.
Dude, I can see you as a fireman.
I feel like that's every athletic ex-athlete's goal is I'll be a fireman, be a tough guy, and go to EMT school, and start working as EMT. I get hired at a hospital.
Yeah. And
I'm transporting patients. I'm on the lift team.
I did lift team as well.
Working side by side with nurses, and
right.
We spent most of our time in the ICU, and I never gave nursing school a thought until I was on this job, and some of the nurses that I work with, say half of them were guys,
right? Yeah,
and they were ended up being some of my best friends. These guys were my mentors. They were awesome people. We went on vacations with them and partied with them.
I didn't know you were EMT before you did nursing.
Yeah, I did it for 3 years, and honestly, it was the best foundation you can have going into nursing school is having actual bedside experience. When I get to nursing school, I was one of maybe 10% of our cohort actually worked with patients. They actually knew something about healthcare before they got to nursing school. And it played a huge role in our conduct, in our confidence in clinicals.
Right.
You see these total bookworms acing tests and can't draw Zofran from a vial because they've never had a vial or a needle in their hand in their life. They've never seen one. They don't know what it looks like. Just that level of confidence, the bedside manner is already there. Something that you can't teach. And I feel like it was a huge benefit.
Well, how did you transition from the EMT to nursing?
I got really good at the EMT thing, and I was doing it for a couple years and making 20 something bucks an hour in California, which is fantastic for EMT pay. But I realized there was guys there that had been there 10 years longer than me, were making the same money, and there wasn't much growth from there.
Right.
You kind of top out. And I said, I don't want to make 20 bucks an hour for the rest of my life. I want more autonomy with my patients.
Right.
I'm working with these nurses, and they're just telling me how awesome it is. They have a better scope of practice than an EMT.
So, but wait, what was the catalyst for you to go into nursing when you were from, an EMT perspective?
It was either nursing or paramedic school.
And you chose nursing, huh?
My cousin was a paramedic, and he was making just a little bit more an hour from me.
Right.
What a lot of people don't know is paramedics are advanced airway specialists. They can intubate, they can give narcotics, they can do a lot.
Right.
They can do a lot more than a nurse can, but they make half the pay.
Which is kind of crazy to think about because, I always tell people I could never be an EMT because I'm not sure if I could be a first responder.
First response is fantastic. I mean, the adrenaline rush.
I could hear it in your voice right now. Like you just lit up, like just even talking about it. And like for me, it's like I'm not sure if I can go to a scene of an accident and then see something and be like, oh, okay, let me go into nursing mode, right? Like nurses, we see stuff that comes in after the accident,
True. It's a little more controlled of an environment and a code and stuff.
Right.
The beauty of paramedics is they have a lot of standing orders. They can give things and not have to wait for orders. And
right.
It's a lot of on the spot thinking and roll. It's
like hands on, man.
Yeah,
I mean, you're there at
just
the scene and you have to respond. Like you have to react.
Huge adrenaline rush. My cousin was doing it and he said, there's just a lot of responsibility you have for the salary they provide. And that's just the way the industry worked.
Right.
It was extremely competitive. I worked as an EMT with guys that were paramedics and they'd been applying for 10 plus years, not getting interviews, trying to be firemen, going to fire school, these fire science courses. And,
that's how it was back home too. Like a lot of people were EMTs or they were lift team, which I was part of lift team back in Tampa, Florida. And they were just on a wait list or they were just keep on applying to become a firefighter.
And everyone's just plugging away and, there'd be an opening, they'd have 4,000 applicants.
Right.
And it's like, man, like you literally, if you're not a chief's son or something, you don't stand a chance.
It's definitely, you have to know someone.
Yeah. So, and I used that and, I was real smart in EMT school, really understood the medical side of it, and I was good at anatomy, physio. I already had a lot of the prerequisites done from my bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
So I said, talking to the nurses, they said, man, be a nurse. This, you'll get a job.
Or a nurse.
Be a nurse. We're killer, man. The stigma, it's not a woman's profession.
What do you think of the term about nurse, by the way?
I love it.
Do you?
I mean, when we started, it was like, less than 10% of nurses were men.
Yeah.
And I've seen these numbers just expand exponentially. It's become much more of a co-ed experience.
I know people that run like social media platforms that use the term nurse, and they still get hate mail. They still get hate mail from guys saying, how can you do that to us? To label, I'm like, are you really getting offended from the term nurse? Like that's just like ridiculous.
It was. I mean, when we first got into it, it was a movement. I mean, it was like.
Well, it was also Meet the Fockers. Like,
let's
be real. Like,
yeah,
the
funny thing is when I told my family and stuff that I'm going to go to nursing school. It was right when that movie came out. My dad literally called me Fokker. Like that's he goes, oh, Greg Fokker over here. He wants to be a nurse. Like, what kind of a job is that? And he would like literally mess with me, and I'm like, Dad, no, this is great, man.
Yeah,
this is awesome. I get to help people and. I can do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I did.
And then where did you end up for nursing school?
before nursing school, I was working at a trauma center out of the Bay Area.
Okay.
It was a magnet hospital. It was a great experience.
Yeah.
That's where I met all my original nurse friends and hanging out they had a really good neuro ICU and, hanging out with them on the night shift. And we did like a camping trip one time, which was a blast. And, a lot of them are still my friends today.
That's awesome, man.
They were my mentors, and then they all found out I was applying for schools.
Right.
So they would explain things to me and, give me all their old textbooks, and everybody's real supportive. So it kind of really motivated me to get to that next level, which is nursing.
You were in California. Did you apply to nursing school in California?
I did. This was 2009, 2010.
Yeah.
And schools were crazy impacted. There was this Newsweek article that said nursing was the hottest job ever. Yeah. This was right after the market crashed.
I remember that.
There was a lot of second career people going to nursing school because it was a stable income. It was, that wasn't going anywhere.
Right.
So a lot of real estate people, going back to college, in their mid 30s, 40s, even as old as 50s.
So my cohort, because I did the second degree program too back in 2010. I remember exactly what you're talking about.
A lot of middle-aged people in the program.
That's it, man.
They were, a lot of them were in real estate. They were in fashion. There's something. The economy takes a dump, and here they are, these women and people.
I had lawyers. We had archaeologists that went back to nursing school, fashion designer, some MBAs, like that kind of thing. But it was like nobody from previous healthcare. And they're I need a job. Like I need something that's different.
So, and the way these accelerated programs work, as long as you knock out those prerequisites, they'll take you with a previous degree. It doesn't matter if you have it in art, business.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to have it in a science.
Right.
So a lot of the prerequisites I had already done.
Yeah.
I had to do, a couple night classes just to kind of meet the criteria for nursing, and I started applying. The California schools a lot of them were waitlisted, and I said, if I'm going to go back to school, at this point I was like 24. I said, I want to make this a phenomenal experience. I want to really get, dive head first into this.
Yeah.
Started looking at major cities like Chicago, New York City.
Yeah.
My undergrad was in LA. I was just trying to get away from California because that's the only thing I knew.
Right.
The only place I've ever lived.
Right.
So I got into NYU. They said, can you start in, they literally gave me like 6 weeks.
Right.
And I said, I'll be there.
Right. Yeah.
Trying to figure out how I'm going to pay for this.
NYU had a nursing program?
Yeah, they had they have a whole college of nursing.
When I think of NYU, and I'm sorry, I'm completely like stereotyping or being completely ignorant. I think of the art student that actually carries a Polaroid because they don't want to use Instagram. That you know what I mean? Like,
I mean that presence is there.
Right.
They have a fantastic business school. I mean, a lot of Wall Street guys come
from NYU.
NYU
Gotcha.
Stern is what it was called.
Yeah.
Every individual school had its own name.
Right.
They had, the management. They had economics.
Right.
But the College of Nursing was there. They had a medical school, a dental school.
Wow.
So,
how was your experience at NYU?
Man, New York City was a culture shock.
Yeah.
Well, I moved there in the winter of 2011. It was the coldest, worst winter they had in 60 years. And
you're from Cali.
The California kid. The warmest thing I owned was a hooded sweatshirt.
Right.
And the only pair of shoes I brought was some Converse.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm walking around in 9 inches of snow.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
In the middle of Manhattan. I'm like, what is going on? My feet are freezing. So the first thing I bought when I was there was a pair of Timberlands. And, I'm wearing the Timberlands. And
that's funny because I'm from Florida. The first time I went to Tahoe out here in California, I bought Timberlands. They go out in the snow.
I'm stomping around like these guys, you see these guys on the subways and they were always like real fashion forward, these like hip hop looking New York guys. And I was like, I'm trying to dress like these guys to fit in.
Right. And did you have the tongue out?
No. You wear those big puff jackets and, the down jackets are where it's at.
Yeah.
And, it was the wind chill, just that if you weren't wearing something that wasn't right for the weather, that wind would just rip right through you.
It would go crazy. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there was the first probably 2 months of school. You couldn't even expose your skin outside. It was so cold. It was like the temperature wasn't over the single digits.
Right.
Probably through till mid-March.
So elaborate your like the nursing school program at NYU while you were there.
It was a cold. Just being in the city. NYU is it's in downtown Manhattan. There's no kind of college campus atmosphere.
Right.
It's you walk out of class and there's like homeless people laying out on the side.
So it's like the Tenderloin.
And it's like, no, it's just the hustle and bustle of the city. So, you don't get that college atmosphere.
Right.
Which every time I'd run into undergrads at NYU and be like, what do you do between the ages of 18 and 21?
Yeah. What was their answer?
What do you guys actually do? And they're like, oh, we all have fake IDs, or like we find little apartment parties.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, because there's like no campus life.
So
here.
how was that compared to your campus life back in Cali?
We went to a traditional school. It was a private school, but they had the on-campus environment. There was off-campus houses.
I gotcha.
They had their own. We didn't have like sororities and frats, but they were called societies because it was like this weird private school. But it was kind of the same concept. You get to NYU. Luckily, I'm in my mid-20s. I don't really have to worry about, I just go to a bar if I want to go out and do something. But
right. Well, obviously you graduated, or you lied on your transcripts, one or the other. I'm not sure which one, but
well, I mean, the experience itself, like, I ended up. It took me like a semester to figure out the city, to learn how to navigate the MTA and the subway. It's pretty overwhelming.
Well, New York City, man, there's nothing like it.
And you're, when you first get there, you're extremely homesick. You feel like you made the worst decision of your life.
Yeah.
And by semester 2, man, it's like, this is the best thing that ever happened to me. You start embracing it.
Right.
You make a couple good friends in nursing school.
Yeah. And those friends a lot of times will get you through nursing school.
Yeah. They're your go-tos. You do a lot of studying, and, all your classes are together. These accelerator programs are so intense. Like,
I can name these people that got me through that.
Yeah.
Shout out to Dave, by the way.
You guys tend to everyone kind of sticks together.
It's like a family.
And the weird thing was, it was, looking around, it was like 150 girls,
right,
and like 5 dudes, and like the 5 dudes, we would all just like cluster together in the back row. And,
yeah,
like, man. Just kind of shoot the shit.
It's not a bad thing either.
But we're looking around, and the thing I realized is, the girls, it was always somebody's birthday.
Right.
And there'd be like a dozen girls trying to go out.
Right.
And, everyone started connecting. This is, Facebook was going pretty well back in those days. And
I feel so old when we had to start explaining Facebook, dude.
It wasn't what it is now.
Yeah.
But, we all connected, and I was going out a ton. I was, just partying left and right. And New York City is all about access. If you don't know a door guy, you're not dressed a certain way, you're not getting in, right? Unless you have thousands of dollars to spend.
Right.
So I lucked out. I moved into this building, like right in the heart of the club zone.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people that lived in my building worked at all the clubs. They worked the doors. They were bottle girls. And
yeah.
So, I'd see my next door neighbor in my building, like standing in front of a club. I'm like, hey, what up, man?
Yeah, exactly.
He goes, I work here. You want to come in? Yeah.
Well, heck yeah, I want to come in.
All right. So, the girls be like, oh, it's so-and-so's birthday. Can you take us to that club?
Yeah.
And I'd show up the next weekend with like 10 girls.
Yeah.
And the guys were like, holy shit. Like, this guy can bring girls to our club. And that's as good as gold in New York.
Yeah, yeah.
If you can consistently bring massive groups of girls to a club, they roll out the red carpet every time. Like, we were getting free bottles and stuff.
Well, if I'm a club owner, I hear cha-ching, cha-ching,
yeah,
cha-ching.
Man,
they
want bodies, and especially females in these clubs. It just it drives this atmosphere.
Right.
People spend more money. They see, oh man, this ratio is fantastic. About 3-4 weekends in a row of that, they were like, hey, we can pay you to bring people in. And
so they paid you to be a recruiter for their club.
It was a promoter. That's what promoters do, man. They bring people to the club.
Crazy.
And they're like, look, we'll pay you $8 a girl and $5 for every dude you bring in.
You're
and
doing
the dudes,
sales for these clubs, dude, while you're in nursing school.
And the dudes have to pay the cover, but the girls get in free.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, he goes, and if you bring, if you when you show up, we'll give you guys a VIP table with some free bottles.
Yeah, why not?
And I'm like, a cocktail in New York City at a nightclub is
expensive.
Is like $23
right.
for, a Crown and Coke or something. I'm like, well, shit, I don't have to pay for it now.
Right.
This is fantastic. So I kind of became the the liaison for the social scene in my nursing school is what I would say.
So was it depressing after you graduated from nursing school when you were trying to figure out what to do next?
It was a crazy story, like the last semester in nursing school.
Yeah. My
older brother back in California, he got in an accident.
Oh, wow.
And he was in a coma, severed his spinal cord at the C1, C2 area.
Wow. Everybody
knows what that means.
Right.
It's like kind of the exact injury that Christopher Reeves had when he fell off the horse.
Right.
It was Superman. And, I kind of looked at my brother in the same way. Like he was the man.
He was your older brother.
He was my older brother too. And I looked up to him a lot. He was my best friend. So it was really hard. And I'm blessed that, my professors and my, everyone at NYU was so supportive. They let me take finals early. New York, my life in New York just was, it had an end date.
Right.
Because of this, because my brother was hospitalized. I had to get home back to California.
That's really intense, man. I mean, to go through that, especially during a trying time in nursing school.
Yeah, it was so stressful. And, I just saw my GPA just plummet after that. And everybody was pretty supportive and they understood. And, I still walked out of like a 3.2 or something. Dude, 3.1.
That's still good, man.
It was like I was like really pushing to do the best I could.
Right.
It was maybe like 3.0. Man, I think I'm lying here.
Who cares, man? But you had a lot going on. I get it. It's
I remember we finished finals. I think we partied that night.
Yeah.
I think we went out the next night, and then the day after that, I was gone.
Right.
I was back in California.
Because you had so much going on back home and family and stuff.
The commencement ceremony wasn't for 3 weeks.
Right.
And I was like, look, I can't stick around.
Yeah, you got so much going on back home.
So I had to come back to California, and it was such a depressing scene, seeing my brother laid out in the hospital, and he's paralyzed from the neck down. He's got a trach, and seeing him getting the care and stuff, and being, a couple months out from NCLEX and stuff. I was already graduated. It was tough to see him in that environment.
Yeah.
It made me appreciate the nurses that actually cared. But again, you get those nurses that don't.
Right.
And you could see the lapse in care.
Yeah.
I wasn't that family member that raised a fuss about it. I didn't tell anybody I was a nurse. I just kind of stayed quiet.
We all know those people like that tell you that they're a nurse. You know what I mean? Like, or the nurses that get like, oh, they're a nurse. Like the family member is a nurse or a doctor. And you get like so defensive sometimes. But so how did it change your perspective? It with your brother being a patient, you know what I mean?
And he was definitely one of those high acuity patients. I mean, he was always in the ICU or like a step down unit.
That's intense.
He was just one of those patients that he was tough. And when those, and then when I see these types of patients come into the hospital, I can kind of like see him.
Yeah.
And see, and say,
I hear you, man.
I can see myself being their family member sitting there, and it just really gives you that motivation to do the best you can.
Yeah.
Long story short, with his whole process in and out of sniffs and stuff, he ended up passing away. But
I had no idea, man. I've known you for a little bit. I never knew you even had an older brother, man. Forgive me, but I didn't.
I just some, it's something I don't really talk about.
Yeah. But like I appreciate you sharing that story because like for people out there that are in healthcare, whether it's themselves or like I had a girl on not too long ago where she had a stroke and she was a nurse herself. To if you had a family member, it kind of opens your eyes, man.
Yeah, you're on the other side. You're on the other side of this.
Yeah,
and it makes you appreciate the care. It makes you try harder when you're providing care. It makes you want to be the best you can. And
absolutely,
you're not just treating the patients, you're treating the family members and stuff too.
It's almost like you're treating your family member. Like, for instance, like my father, right? A lot of health issues, right? So when I treat my patients, it's almost like, how would I want my family to be treated? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you put yourself in that situation, and it's like, but after your brother's passing, what did you do then? Like, what was the next step for you?
So the original college I went to was Whittier in LA. I had a really good group of buddies that I walked away with out of that school.
Yeah.
And they all lived in San Diego.
Yeah.
They all just kind of migrated down there. They had a house. They were like, hey, man, come down. I know things are tough for you. Just come down to the beach and, we'll spend, some time,
What city is this in? Where's this at? In
San
LA?
Diego.
Oh, San Diego. Okay, got it.
So we're down there. So I moved there. One of my buddies owns a kayak and snorkel tour guide type place in La Jolla.
Yeah.
And and I'm like, I'm bugging him. I'm like, hey, man, like, I'm studying for NCLEX. Like, I can't get nursing jobs yet. I'm not licensed.
Right.
So, NCLEX isn't for a little while. I kind of need a job like tomorrow. He's like, yeah, man, you can work for me. You'd be a tour guide.
A snorkeling tour guide?
Yeah, dude. And the next day I'm running kayak tours and snorkel tours in La Jolla, dude.
Have you ever snorkeled before?
I never snorkeled in my life, dude. Like, I'm just out there, like, just totally BSing this thing. And he gave me, and something.
That's hilarious.
And you got to be like entertaining. You got to interact with tourists.
Right.
You got to be funny. You got to crack like these super corny jokes.
Right.
And everybody laughs. You got to be energetic. And I got really good at it.
Yeah.
We were getting all these tips and stuff. I mean, I'm making $10 an hour. I'm living on the beach.
Yeah.
And it was fun, man. Like, I'm out in the ocean all day. I'm like,
you love it.
I could be not liking my job, but,
right. You're loving it.
I still didn't have any money, but it was a cool. At least I could pay my rent every month.
Exactly.
And and from there I was like looking for gigs at night because that was kind of a day thing.
So was a snorkeling gig a full-time gig or was it a part-time?
No, I was working at least 32 hours a week.
Did you have other jobs lined up as well?
Yeah, I was looking on Craigslist, looking for
Craigslist for a job, man.
For jobs like bartending
That's hustling.
jobs.
That's hustling.
Dude, I was just throwing resumes out for whatever I can get my hands on, and I ended up landing this bartending gig at a cocktail lounge. In Hillcrest of San Diego, and if those of you,
had like a little smirk on your face. I'm not sure where this is going. Dude.
Those of you who don't know San Diego very well, Hillcrest is kind of the boys' town. So it was kind of this,
like where the Navy SEALs hang out.
No, where the where the gays hang out.
Oh, got it. Okay. So wait. Go ahead.
I'm working at this like kind of upscale gay cocktail lounge.
Okay, as a straight bartender.
Straight bartender.
Yeah.
And the staff they were about 50-50, straight gay.
Yeah.
And everybody was super cool, and the clients that would come in were pretty interesting, man. And these guys, I got pretty good at bartending.
I've heard this before, where like good-looking straight dudes become bartenders at gay bars.
Oh yeah, it's the tips are phenomenal.
How much would you walk away at?
We were pulling our tips. I'd never, if I got to take on my own tips.
That was replay what you just said. It sounds really bad, dude, but go ahead.
We were pulling tips.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Everybody throws them in the bucket. Some bartenders were absolutely killing it.
Yeah.
Others weren't, but we all kind of left with the same.
Got it. Okay.
It was fair. But $150, $200 a night.
That's not bad. I mean,
for a couple hours work, and then they're paying you your minimum wage or whatever. But
I mean, hell, you're studying for the NCLEX.
I'm studying for NCLEX. I'm applying for jobs. I'm running kayak tours.
So,
I'm tan. I'm like super fit at the time.
I can tell right now people are like, where are you proposition? Let's be real.
Oh man, there was one night this guy, he was pretty smashed, and he tells me, hey, I'll give you $1,000.
$1,000?
He says, I'll give you $1,000 if you let me suck your dick.
What?
how should I word this?
What? That's how he said it, though, right?
He no. He says, "I'll give you $1,000.
Yeah.
If you let me suck you off." And I'm like thrown back. I'm like, fuck. I'm like, well, that's a lot of money, man.
You're studying for NCLEX.
I'm studying for NCLEX. I'm like, I got like $35 in my bank account, man. I'm like, man, I could use this money. And he's like, you don't have to do anything. All you got to do is just stand there. I'm like, oh, dude.
Oh
Like,
my God.
Like he threw me back for a second. I actually like let the idea run through my head.
Yeah.
And for a split second, I'm like, oh no, you know what? I can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I've that was one of the wilder stories, and the guy was regular, and you knew it. He was loaded. Like $1,000 is nothing.
Yeah.
To this guy.
It's not like you knew the guy, right? So it's not like one time deal. He's gonna come back. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
So,
he try to get more the next time. Like I'm like, no,
Oh man,
thank you, but no, I'm broke, but I still have my soul intact.
So 1,000 was your price to at least think about it.
No, man, I was so damn poor back then.
Yeah,
it was just to me that was $1 million.
Yeah.
And then this bar, they were heavily involved in the community and the LGBT.
Yeah,
Pride comes around. And they had a float in the parade.
Yeah.
So I was like, they volunteer me to be like I'm like on this I'm like in a Speedo in front of thousands of people with chains all over me.
Oh my God.
And there's this real famous drag queen that's sitting in a chariot, and she's like Santa Claus, and we're her little reindeer, and it's me and all these little buff guys that they hired. I was the only employee of the there's two of us. They were pretty stacked. So we're cruising through, and then I'm living at the beach, and circles of friends were texting me hey, girls would be like, hey, I'm at Pride with some of my girlfriends, and we swear we just saw you on a float.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that was me. And my buddies back at the beach are like, dude, why are you always hanging out? I'm like, dude, it's a riot out here,
it's
man.
Good money, man.
It's good money. The people are great. And we'd always go out after work, go to the clubs.
Yeah.
And, you meet a lot of interesting people, and a lot of them are still my friends today.
Right.
And they were just really there for me, when a time when things were the best for me. And it's cool to meet friends like that.
They're there during the good and bad times, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So
after you were dancing around in chains at a Pride parade, and also bartending at a Hillcrest, wherever it was at, I know that you passed the NCLEX, but what was the next step for you after that?
It was funny, man. I was at the bar and bartending, and I must have applied for 50 to 60 jobs.
Yeah. And
at that time, it was so impacted. They were saying the average wait time from when you finish school to when you actually get a job was 1.5 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm all bummed out. I'm like, man, I thought I really was a good candidate for this job.
Yeah.
And what? One of the regulars, he's just looking at me. He's like, "Oh, what's wrong, baby?" Hey, or what's wrong, honey? They would kind of just be real flirty with it, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm just kind of bummed out. I applied for this job, and they all knew what I was doing because I would talk to them." And
yeah,
he says, "Well, you really want a job? You should have asked me. One of my best girlfriends is a nurse manager at this place,
right?
And I'll ask her if she'll give you a job."
That's awesome.
I got a job over a text message.
Yeah.
From a bar in San Diego.
Hillcrest. Because
of my regular he cared about me that much that he went out of his way to put in a good word.
That's awesome, man.
This nurse manager, he handed me his phone, and I talked to her, and she said, "Can you come in tomorrow for an interview?"
That's great.
And the next day I got a job offer.
So what kind of unit was it? What kind of floor?
It was an LTAC, man. It was brutal.
That's
brutal. But I was so hungry. I would take what I could get.
That's smart, man.
I would have, swept the floors in a hospital if they asked me to, man.
Exactly.
And that kind of hunger, a lot of people don't experience that, man, where you got nothing.
Exactly.
You got nothing to lose.
So why wouldn't you take that job? Do you know what I mean? Like
I was bartending and doing kayak tours. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, and it was a fantastic time. I was having a blast.
Yeah.
But it wasn't what I went to school for, what I prepared for.
Long term.
It wasn't a long-term thing. It was kind of like a summer gig. And then summer was kind of winding down, and I was like, I'm ready to hop into my career, and the timing couldn't have been better.
So how long did you do the LTAC gig, and then what did you do after that?
I did that for about a year. You develop some pretty bad habits.
Yeah.
You cut corners because, you're managing like 30, 40 patients.
LTAC is a little rough, depending where you're at.
It's bad. Those conditions could be really bad. This particular one wasn't the worst, but it wasn't the best.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm lucky that a lot of the people that I worked with were great. It was like Filipino mafia there.
Yeah.
I mean, there was potlucks, man. I was eating.
Dude, I love it when they cook, man.
I was eating lumpia and all the chicken adobo every shift, man.
Yeah.
It would just be like a potluck. I'm like, oh, this is great.
I love it.
And rolling in with a BSN RN,
yeah.
I was more educated than everybody there, so they made me the night shift manager. And there's people there that've been here
for years, probably.
Years,
yeah.
That knew the place and knew how it ran better than I did. But because of my degree and stuff, they made me the night shift manager. So,
exactly.
Which is pretty cool. And I got to still live in San Diego.
Yeah.
I was working a lot, but it was fun. It was experience.
After that part, what was the next move for you, man? Because because I've been dying to get into this part. You know where I'm going.
This is the whole reason why I'm on this damn podcast.
I've been dying for this part.
Is the MTV show. So there was a boutique traveling agency. It's not very boutique anymore because it's pretty big. It's Aya Healthcare.
Yeah, I know Aya Healthcare very well.
Yeah, they're based out of San Diego.
Yeah.
And I knew some of their recruiters and stuff just from my social life out in San Diego and stuff.
Right.
And my buddy that owned the kayak shop was dating this bartender and she's a real pretty girl.
Right.
And her roommate was one of the recruiters that was responsible for finding candidates for
the show.
So I partnered with a production company.
We could say the name of the show, right? Like,
Scubbing In.
Scubbing In, that's it. Yeah.
Scubbing In on MTV. Everybody remembers that.
Yeah, man.
I say half the planet loved it and half the planet hated it.
Yeah, there was a lot of heat from that show.
It was bad.
Yeah.
But they said, what kind of, a lot of nurses that come to the bar, like who would be great? And you gotta talk to Adrian. You gotta meet this guy. So they a bunch of people talked me into it.
Yeah.
I applied for it. I had to do like a web interview, like an in-person interview. I just kept clearing to the next
every
level.
Hurdle, man.
Every hurdle to get there.
Yeah.
And I eventually get picked for this show.
Yeah.
And, at the same time that I got the offer, the same day, I got an offer to work at this really good gig in an ER in LA.
Yeah. And you turned that down to do the show?
Yeah, it was actually a residency. They hired me as a new grad with a year of experience.
Wow!
But it was a new grad residency,
so
that was what I wanted.
So you were dedicated to MTV then.
And the damn president of the studio calls me on my cell phone.
Yeah,
he's like, "Are you seriously considering turning this down?"
Right.
He's like, "You can be crazy famous. You can be a millionaire."
Yeah,
he's promising me the sun
all
and
this
the moon.
stuff, man.
He's like, "You're gonna get laid so much. You're gonna have so many girls." I'm like, "Dude, I don't think that's an issue right now. Like, to be honest, I live in San Diego. I got a good thing going for me here, man. I don't really need to be on TV."
Right.
And so he's just relentless. Just keeps calling me.
He was feeding you all the lines, man. Yeah.
And and then I got a really crappy offer from this hospital in LA. I was like, I don't want to go. I'm like, let's just roll the dice here. I can get another job. Screw it.
Yeah.
So I go on this fucking TV show, man. Like
that's crazy.
And it wasn't the best time in my life because my brother had just passed away maybe 3 months before I went on the show.
That's pretty quick, man.
And
I didn't realize that timeline.
Yeah, the timeline was and the time between when he passed away and when I went on the show, I was drinking nonstop, man. If I wasn't working, I wasn't sober.
Right.
And that's just how I coped with it. I did a great job of kind of hiding it from my friends. A lot of times I just party with these guys.
Right.
And that's just kind of how San Diego is. It's really hard to be productive there.
Yeah. Is that like a party city? I would assume.
Oh my God, man.
All the time.
It's like your postgraduate haven.
Got it.
You know, people in their mid 20s to 30s that don't quite have it figured out,
Yeah.
but, you know, are doing something to pay their income
Right.
or pay their overhead every month. So it's it was an interesting experience, but the TV show,
I'm kind of, you know, it's like this. I kind of want to know as much as possible without like you getting in trouble with the show or anything, you know?
it got a lot of bad backlash
Yeah.
from nurses, which I was, you know,
I want to hear your side because I'll only hear the negative side.
You know, there was a petition going around. It
Yeah.
had like 80,000 signatures on it from nurses all over the country,
Right.
saying, you know, this is an embarrassment to the profession.
This
These
doesn't
people
represent nursing.
This
that
doesn't
kind of stuff.
represent
Yeah.
nursing.
Right,
Like
right.
these idiots are ruining our reputation. I'm like, look, like nurses go out and party and stuff. You know, the issue with this whole thing was it was on MTV.
Right. It's on a major platform that's known for like Jersey Shore.
You know, this was the post Jersey Shore era, where
Right.
like, where the you know, sex, booze, and drama
That's
sells.
it. Yeah, exactly.
And those are the kinds of things they focused on their editing, which is right up their alley. It, you know, if it was on like Lifetime or like, you know, it just had different. If it was on like a different network that has an older audience,
Yeah.
it could have been a little more tasteful.
Right. No, I gotcha.
But they got to understand is there were hours, endless hours of really
Recording, right?
of really good clinical scenes because they
okay.
recorded us in the hospital working with patients. The whole HIPAA thing, I have no idea how they did it, but there was like a packet that was like 50 pages thick
They had to sign
that the patients would have to sign. They would have a liaison go into every room and say, hey, look, they're filming a reality TV show.
Yeah.
Would you be interested in being on it as a patient?
Right.
And I would say maybe half the patients said, no, I want my privacy. So it wasn't hard to find patients that were cool with it.
Right.
We had a lot of really cool clinical scenes, like education wise. You know, I had this whole sequence where I'm teaching a newly diagnosed diabetic how to draw insulin from a vial, how to give themselves insulin. I'm using the orange like you do in nursing school, or like, you know, you stab the orange with the needle and you inject it and teaching them the whole thing.
See, there's two sides of the story always. And, you know, and I've only heard the negative side. And see, that's why I wanted you to come in and say, hey, this is what the stuff that you didn't see or didn't hear about.
All these, you know, these beautiful scenes, and none of it makes it on the show.
Right.
And, you know,
They're
later on,
cherry-picking.
like, you know, I asked the producers, I'm like, what happened? Like, that was beautiful that week.
Right.
Like, why did, like, oh, you know, it's just, that stuff's not, you know, it won't get the views.
Right.
That, like,
And you're like,
that,
what?
that Saturday night drama at the club will get.
Yeah. I had a guest one time that was on here talking about her time in Baltimore. And she said that there was a show that was filming like live, you know, like things were happening in a trauma center. And they nixed the show because there wasn't enough like exciting scenes. From it.
You know,
like,
and a nurse's life really isn't that exciting. Like, it's not that interesting.
It can
like,
be.
Like,
you know,
you go to work, you do it, and
Yeah.
then, you know, I would come home and I'm pretty regimented during the week.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'll meal prep, I go to the gym, and they went to the gym with me a couple times with the cameras.
Right.
And they're like, you're seriously going to do this every night? I'm
Right.
like, yeah, this is what I do. Like, I go to the gym.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, that's not interesting. Like, you got to go to a bar. Like, you got to go out and be social with your
cohort. Yeah.
you know, your co-stars.
Right.
And I'm like, look, I got to work. I got to be up in the morning. I got to go. I
Gotta work.
got to work.
Yeah.
So, you know, I kind of got into it with the producers of that. And then I understood, like, you got to treat this as a job. Like,
Right.
you're not just living your life. Like, you have to really participate in this project. So, you know, a lot of it's kind of guided.
Yeah.
And then the way they edit it, you know, they'll make it seem like we're out partying all night. And
Right.
then we're at work at the next
Next morning. Yeah.
And people are like, look at these people just like drinking and going hungover to work. I would read the comments and stuff.
And you can have 3 days off. You can
and
have
I'm
3
like,
days off
look,
or
like,
something.
I'm
yeah.
like, there's like 4 days between those two
Right.
scenes. It's just the way it's edited.
Yeah.
And, you know, it just, they could have improved on the cast selection.
Yeah.
They could have, you know, what they did was they got like, you clearly didn't watch the show.
I did not watch the show. I actually tried to look for it, and the only way I could get it is by buying it. I was like,
man,
they don't air it in the U.S. anymore.
I thought it was on Hulu for a while. I don't know.
They might.
It only lasted the one season, and then they just didn't get the numbers they wanted.
Right. Well, I think they had a lot of pressure from the
the national, what is it? The American Nurses Association.
ANA,
like sent a letter and said, "You guys are."
I've heard about
this
that.
Is done. Like we got a lot of power here.
So do you remember the part where they told you, "Hey, the show's over. Like this is it."
Well, no, we finished recording. So it was supposed to be 12 episodes. Yeah. But they ended up cutting it to 10.
Yeah.
I stopped watching it after 6, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't happy because it just wasn't the way things happen sometimes.
Yeah.
And I was pretty upset.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just a bad time in my life.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you had even 3 months prior, man. You had like a major life event, right?
Even on the show and stuff, like I drank a lot more than I usually do.
Right.
And it was just kind of the way I dealt with
Your coping was not like the greatest probably at that point. So after the whole MTV deal, what did you decide to do? Did you continue traveling, or did you just like hey?
So I mean the show is about travel nurses.
Right.
And I went into it not having any experience.
Right.
So kind of getting my foot in the door, kind of getting that experience from the show.
Yeah.
It was able to give me other jobs. So I just went headfirst into travel nursing.
So we're not talking about like bartending anymore, or like
I'm done with that
stuff. Yeah.
So I ended up at a trauma center in Fresno.
Yeah.
It was a level 1. It ended up being I didn't know, but it was the busiest ER in the state. I mean, they serviced like it was something like 800,000 patients a year run through this ER with like you're talking about like 300 patient census in the ER. There's people like lined up outside sitting in chairs and stuff.
So you go from like a perspective where someone from the outside might look at you and like, oh, here's Pretty Boy. Yeah. He's bartending prior to nursing and stuff. Going on MTV. But you're getting your hands dirty, man. Like you're actually doing nursing work. Like I know you, man. Like, you know
absolutely. And when the show kind of peaked in popularity, I would say it was really popular amongst like nurses and like healthcare workers. Like, because it was their niche and it was kind of interesting to them. There's a lot of I used to get a lot of messages from kids in nursing school and stuff say, our cohort would watch your nursing the show and you motivated me to become a nurse.
That's awesome, man.
Getting messages like that was really cool. Yeah. But then like kind of get, you had to filter out like the hate mail stuff, like
the Twitter feed stuff.
You're an asshole. Like fuck all you guys. Yeah. I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss on here.
Absolutely, dude. You got to be yourself. That's the whole thing about NSR. Yeah.
It was, I really got a high off motivating other people.
Yeah.
And then when the show aired and stuff, I was already like working in other gigs because there's like a 6-month lapse from when you post-production and stuff.
Yeah.
So it was hard to work and not be recognized by patients and other coworkers, and it became kind of a distraction at work. Like people wanted to take pictures with me, and it was just kind of uneasy all the time. And eventually, like a manager called me in and was like, "Look, like you got to stop with like this, like Hollywood, like taking pictures of people. Like you got HIPAA laws. Yeah, you can't take pictures of patients." I'm like, "Look, I'm not busting out my phone. It's
other
them.
people doing it. Yeah,
it's my patient's 13-year-old daughter that saw me on TV.
Right.
That it like has a poster on her wall or something and thinks I'm like a star, and I'm like I'm just a nurse trying to do my job."
So how do you do your job whenever people are recognizing you on a TV show?
Yeah, man, it was tough. It was just another thing to have to deal with on top of being swamped at work. But I ended up becoming, I ended up proving, because they didn't think I was like people are like, "Are you actually a real nurse? Like, are you an actor?
Yeah,
like you don't look like a nurse."
Because you, be honest with you, man. Like I'll be real with you. You kind of look like a soap opera, look kind of like General Hospital thing, right? You know what I mean? Like,
dude.
I mean, you probably get that all the time, not to piss you off, but
I get that look, man. Even now, like people that don't know about the show, like, "Are you actually my nurse?
Yeah,
or am I dreaming right now? Like,
right,
old ladies hitting on me and stuff,
right?"
And
it's like they don't realize that you actually work.
Like I studied for this. Like this is what I do. Like, So
it wasn't like everything was like handed to you. I mean, you know, so. But Adrian, man, I greatly appreciate you coming on the podcast. I've been waiting to have you on this damn thing, dude.
Yeah,
And,
man, this is we're like flowing really good here, dude.
yeah,
I'm
man.
just rambling away. I told you, I'm 2.5 IPAs, man. That's all it takes.
Well, I'm very proud of you, man, because, you know, the life event that you're talking about, your brother and stuff, a lot of people can choose different routes to go.
Of course.
You know what I
man.
mean? And sometimes I see a lot of healthcare workers and they go the wrong route, man.
Yeah.
And
you can let it break you, or you can get stronger from it, man.
That's
and,
it.
You know, I'm a firm believer, and if it doesn't kill you, it only makes you stronger.
That's it.
So,
Well, Adrian, man, it's a pleasure, dude, having you on NSR National Scrubs Radio. I've been waiting to have this show, and we've been talking for the last few weeks, dude. You're always welcome back as a guest here. Thank you so much for coming out, man.
thank you, man.
All right, buddy.
Thank you so much for listening to NSR, National Scrubs Radio, with your host, Derek J. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit Facebook and Twitter @NatScrubsRadio. We'll catch you next time.